the meeting of the Pasadena Area Community College Board of Trustees. Ms. Thompson, will you please take the roll?
Ms. Waugh,
Here.
Dr. Selvage,
Here.
Dr. Fellow, Ms. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Hilsman,
Here.
Mr. Martin, Mr. Osterling,
Here.
and Ms. Garipian.
Mr. Martin is coming.
And Mr. Martin is coming.
Martin is
Here.
Okay, Trustee Osterling, will you lead us in the pledge?
Please stand and join me.
present. Showing this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Hearing none, we will now begin the agenda. So this is the first meeting that we will be using board docs, and we have a couple of items for approval, and so we do have an opportunity to poll the board to ask how they would like to vote. So there are two ways we can vote. One is we vote, and Ms. Thompson will then release the votes as a whole, so that she releases it after all have voted. Or if we don't do it that way, I guess we do it the old way, where you have to push the button and everybody can see how someone votes, and perhaps you'll be influenced by how someone votes. The other way is everybody votes their conscience, and we look at it after everyone votes. So it's at the pleasure of the board. So why don't we, Ms. Brown, Trustee Brown, how do you wish to see this?
I would like to hear from others.
Okay. So you don't want to you don't want to vote until the,
I would like to hear what the
oh, have to say. Okay, Trustee Hilsman.
I agree.
What do you agree?
I agree that I would like, I agree with Trustee Brown that we should,
That's not
for
what
the
she
time
said.
being, yeah.
That's not actually what she said. So Trustee Brown, I think you need to clarify that because it was a little confusing.
What I said was, I would like to hear from others how they feel about the voting.
Before you weigh in.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Okay. All right, I'll pass also.
All right, let me start at the other end. Trustee Osterling.
I'm ready to step in.
I know you are.
Well, I'm ready to go high-tech and see how we do as far as the voting part, but I do agree with Trustee Brown that, we should make a motion and second it and have discussion first and then go to the vote, so.
Is this an action item?
No, it's not an action item. We're having the discussion so that Mary, the clerk, can set this up so that she knows how the voting will occur. Otherwise, she has to set up the scoreboard ahead of time. So, yeah, so that will occur. So we will take a motion. So the question is, do all trustees vote? Mary then tallies up where all trustees vote and then shows it on the scoreboard, or you do it manually where everybody's pressing a button and then trustees can wait to see how other trustees vote before they vote. So those are the two options.
Understood. And on the voting part of it, I'm in favor of trying to do it the high-tech way.
Okay, got it. So
I
everybody
can-
all at once.
Yeah.
Just another point of discussion. I agree with Jim. I'm fine to do that. But my question would be, should we make this decision at the beginning of every meeting? Because it may depend on the items, the action items that we have.
Well, okay, I do have an opinion on that, but I think that we should go ahead and decide how we want to do it. Let's try it out for a while. If it looks like it's not working, then we can say we want to do it differently. It's not hard, it's just that Ms. Thompson has to set up the process ahead, and she has to know what the process is. So it's not like something you just do well, I mean, I guess you could do it on the fly, but it's a little messier, I think. Trustee Martin, how do you feel?
I'm happy to dive in on it. Better
Trustee
now than
Selvage.
later.
Right. Nobody has said yet specifically what the two approaches or ways are of voting, other than that we're going to use the computer. The computer and the high-tech way can either be done such that trustees don't know what anybody else is voting, Or it can be done the way we've always been doing it, where it's like a roll call, where, you know, you can see what other trustees, you know, depending on the order, you can see what other trustees are voting, which is the way we've always been doing it, and which is the way, you know, Congress, Senate, State Senate, Assembly, city councils, and everybody, you know, tends to do it. And so I'm in favor of, you know, the high-tech computer and all that, but I'm in favor of having it done in a way that, you know, there's a display that shows what the votes are as they roll in, if they want to do it in a particular order or whatever. The other thing is, if we're talking about coming to an agreement, it sounds to me like it's an action item. And if it's something that we're going to agree to do, that we're going to be bound by, it's something that isn't that something that we should have as an action item? And Mr. Fellow's not here, so I think it's
No,
something.
this is just a procedure. It's just a process of how we decide to handle the meeting. So I believe, and those trustees who said we're doing it the high-tech way, means that everybody punches in their vote, and when Ms. Thompson finishes, she calls that everyone's vote is in, she then displays everything at once. The other way to do it is, as you said, manually, and you'll be pressing a button, and we'll see how people press their buttons.
No, that's not what I,
Well, they're not going to do it, they can't do it, I believe, and Matthew, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you can do this one at a time as you see the votes come up on the scoreboard.
No, all the votes have to be submitted, Mary has to close the vote, save the vote, and then it shows.
That's correct. So all we're doing is we're
That's-
deciding on a procedure. This is not,
that's not what I understood us to be told this afternoon.
no, that's,
She said that that there could be a window, and you know, the public would see it, and we would see who was voting what, until everybody had voted.
that's not correct, Dr. Salvage. So, and I had asked this question at the last meeting. So the two processes are, you vote all at once, and you vote, and Mary displays all the votes at once, or we do it manually, and we wait. You can see how everybody's voting. So we have
I have a
Trustee
question.
Brown.
So, should we adopt, well, yeah, if we decide tonight that we will try the voting technology way, is this something that we will always have to do, or could we rescind it if we feel this is not something we want to do?
My opinion is I believe we can rescind it. So as Trustee Hilsman said, there might be something that we feel, there might be a reason why we wouldn't want to do it that way. But I think that we should, out of courtesy and respect for the people, the staff who have to run this, let them know ahead of time so that Mary can set it up and make sure that she knows what the process is, the procedure is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add one thing. I think what Trustee Selvage is getting at is that if we have particularly controversial votes, I may feel like I'm agreeing with Selvage's vote, but I don't know how he's going to go, and then he votes. You know, so it's that process that we're concerned about. And I understand it's actually a large issue, but I think if we vote now on this, we can certainly change our minds, as long as it doesn't have to be agendized in advance, because then I could see we would have issues if there's a controversial vote coming up, and then we have to agendize the manner of voting. So,
Dr. Verdian.
Okay, this is a meeting of the Board of Trustees, and I am not a trustee, but I was going to make a suggestion that since there is one action item only today, and it pertains to approving the accreditation follow-up report, I suggest that we proceed with a very simple way today and see how it works, and then every trustee will have an idea as to what the actual voting really looks like. And then we can take it from there, and then at the next meeting, we can discuss it at length and then make a motion on which of the two ways we would like to do it.
so I would
Because at
move.
least we will get to see it happen.
So I would move that we approve tonight the technology voting with board docs.
Okay, so there's really no motion needed, so it's just a matter of how we want to handle this as a process. So I think I'm
Say,
hearing...
how do we vote on that motion? Are we going to vote on that electronically, or are we going to push the button?
That's
We're-
going to be secret
we're
paper
doing-
ballot,
Oh,
John.
Yeah, we're
wait,
just
it's
doing the secret
That could be a loop
handshake.
forever, couldn't it?
Apparently, it's not a motion because there isn't an action item.
Right, so we're just doing our secret handshake.
Okay.
All right, so I think we have a majority of the trustees feel comfortable voting on this, and we'll do it electronically, so Mary can set it up and make sure that we have the scoreboard. Thank you, trustees. All right, so we are now on action item 2. Let's see, the approval of the accreditation follow-up report. So, Dr. Verdian.
Well, today is the great day for all of us because the board will approve the final draft of the accreditation report to the commission. We have all had an opportunity to review the document. We have taken suggestions, feedback, input from all governance groups on campus. The document has cleared all the governing bodies of the college. The Board of Trustees has had an opportunity to review the document multiple times. And after today's vote, the document will be sent electronically on Tuesday to the commission, and a hard copy will be sent overnight. The commission got in touch with me on Tuesday and informed me that they would want their visit on campus to be held before November 10th. And they've asked for some possible dates on which they might come to the college because they've said that they would be coming here for 2 days. They will have a team here that will be on campus for 2 days, and the team may have as many as 7 or 8 members. So the 2 weeks that we have identified so far, during which there would be practically no negative impact because most of staff, if not all of staff and board members would be available because there are no conferences on those 2 weeks, are the week of October 17, on that week, the only day that they should not be here is October 20th, because that's the day when we have the great shakeout. And we're going to be doing a full evacuation of the campus to give our faculty and staff a taste of what it is when you have to really evacuate the campus. And the second week is the week of October 31st. And so those are the 2 weeks that the commission is looking at. I asked the commission if they've already appointed a chair for the team, and I was told that they have not appointed a chair yet, but they do have an idea as to who the person might be, because that person was part of the previous visiting team that came to the college in 2010. So this is where we are today, and the college would ask the board to approve this document, and we feel very comfortable. Dr. Scott is here, and we thank Dr. Scott and Ms. Lenora Rogax for all the work that they have done, bringing together the various work groups, the 9 work groups that we have been working on this document, and we feel very comfortable with how this document has been prepared.
Okay, so are we making a motion, or did you want to do a presentation? Okay, so may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And I'll second it.
So moved by trustee Hilsman, seconded by trustee Brown. Any discussion from the trustees?
Just to congratulate Dr. Scott and her team on this great work. I also say that I am the liaison to the Pasadena City College Foundation, and I've reported to them they're very excited about the prospects for our accreditation follow-up.
With the trustees? Well, I think all of the trustees have been duly impressed with all of the hard work that we know that you've been doing on this, and it looks really great, and we're crossing our fingers and hoping for the best. So thank you very much. So all trustees, we are now ready for the vote. So Ms. Thompson, please call for the vote. All right. Trustees, please indicate your vote.
Mary, nothing popped up on my screen. I'm on this agenda item, but the vote did not pop up.
The vote didn't pop up?
No.
Get out of that.
Thank you,
Matthew's coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matthew.
Okay, hit it.
This is great. And even tells us how you voted, too.
It does. I have to hold my screen.
No, it didn't pop on mine either. No.
Oh, I'm in the public, I'm
Well,
sorry.
this was a good agenda for us to practice.
So,
Yeah.
oh, I did the
I
wrong-
see where it tells me I have an option to change my vote, but I don't see it where it shows me how I voted.
Sorry, guys, I was in the public part.
That's if I want to change it. Was there a place that showed me how I voted?
Yeah, it should have popped up once you voted.
Is my username my email address? Matthew, is my username
Well, that's
my
just,
email
I'm voting
address?
again now, right? Okay, over here it popped up.
Okay. Good.
Now it's staying there. Okay, it goes away after.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to be paying attention.
It assumes you're going to
When-
remember.
You got to look
That's
when
it.
you do it.
And it protects you from anybody looking at your screen. You might have voted.
I'm going to do,
Matt, Trustee Hilsman.
Yeah.
It's not coming up. Haven't voted yet.
No. I'm thinking, I'm deciding.
Okay.
That's okay. You take your time. Are you waiting to
me-
see how
give me
everybody voted?
No, he's never.
I'm filibustering
I
here.
attended less trainings than anybody else.
Are you signed in?
No worries.
Right, because your vote came up. I was in, but I was in
not
the
joining
public
meeting.
section. I wasn't signed
Ah,
in.
my goodness.
That's okay. That's why this is a parallel test.
Good thing, right? Trustee Selvage, you voted?
How'd you vote, Trustee Selvage?
Yeah, give me a
Well,
reset.
you're going to have to wait and find out.
Ah, okay.
Because we're doing this high-tech.
Yeah.
We're doing this the new way.
Ah,
All
boy.
right, Trustee Selvage.
That button.
Yeah, I thought
Only
I
Mary
had my-
knows.
That's right. Only Mary knows.
I already voted.
I think that's my username.
It would be your first initial, last name.
Oh, okay.
Dot Pasadena.
Ah,
So if we have a really busy agenda item, we may need 2 or 3 Matthews running around here.
It's the first time, we're gonna.
That's right. It's the first time. No,
We'll get
no
through this.
problem.
One
No
word
sweat. We only have 2 agenda items.
Bill didn't like it. What was it? First name?
First name, last, no, first
Your
initial.
last- Your initial, your
Initial and last name, dot Pasadena.
Yeah,
Pasadena.
that didn't work.
Slow down, you'll be fine, you'll make
Yeah,
it.
I put my
Didn't like
login
my
on
password, I guess. Let me try it one more time.
a post-it note on my computer where nobody will ever figure it out.
Okay, you're good.
The wheel.
All right.
All right, now go to,
Kind of like Dumbo Hangs thing, or
all right.
the dwarf
Okay, I think I made my mind up.
Dopal right outside the
Right.
Oh.
Everybody has
So it
voted now?
only moved, no, but see, it barely is moving.
What are you ready for us to do?
Okay,
So I
well,
beat Osterling? That's great.
That's what you get, Jim, for
okay,
coming
we
to
have a
every board doc
competition
training.
on votes.
Jay Osterling, is that correct? So Jay.
Oh, my goodness.
J.A. Osterling.
How the vote was being?
Oh.
Should you read serially?
I thought it was the same. Okay. Has she changed it yet?
Yes, yes.
So now I do change me. Okay. So this should
Okay, well, I think we're almost there.
didn't
Are
work.
these all the same, you guys? These the same ones or they're different?
Yeah, well,
Just because of the voting, we might stay here till midnight.
that's right. This might be the longest meeting we've had.
Great idea.
It'll be a short meeting, yeah.
Go. Okay. Sorry, guys.
That's, no,
Okay,
no
let's
worries,
click on
no
September
worries.
21st.
That's why we did it at this agenda.
Agenda, join the meeting. Gonna go ahead.
Highly competent group of
Okay.
elected officials.
Mary, do you have the vote?
Got all of them? All right, so what do
Okay.
you do now, Mary? Okay.
All right. Ms. Thompson, please.
I want to see. Yeah, do it so we could see.
Publish. Oh, they did? All right.
All right.
Motion carried.
I
Motion,
don't see it, where's mine?
motion passes
What
unanimously.
did you do over there?
Yeah, but it should be on
Hey.
mine.
Right here, nothing in front of you.
Thank you, Dr.
Oh, but not on
Scott.
mine?
Not here, no.
Oh,
No, yeah, if you scroll,
oh, well, we did see it
scroll
on mine.
down. If you scroll
Should be able to see.
If you look at the bottom.
So trustees, you
the
can
bottom.
scroll down and see the vote
Mine doesn't go anywhere further.
on your screen.
All right.
And, huh?
Actually, no, you can't.
Oh, I see.
No, you should,
Supposed to. I saw it before.
okay, so we're done.
Good.
All right.
Okay, let's see this.
All right, are we ready to move forward on
Oh, here.
item 3, agenda item 3, study session for the college goals? 3.0, College Board President Goals and Strategic Initiatives. Dr. Verdian.
I'm going to ask Ms. Crystal Colrose, our Executive Director of Research and Planning, to guide us through where we are currently with the goals for the college, goals for the president, and how we're measuring those goals, right? And then we'll prepare the board for the board to discuss amongst themselves on the board goals. Right? Ms. Colrose?
I hope so. I hope you got that right. I hope that's why I'm here tonight. Good evening, Board of Trustees. Can you hear me? No?
Your mic's not on.
I know. It says it is. Well, I can talk really loud. I practice. So first of all, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is I don't have a lot to say. The bad news is I don't have a lot to say, and you know I'm entertaining. So let's just go ahead and go right to this. If they put this on the screen for me. Hello? Hello? Ah, there we go. Great. So you should have in your packet tonight a document that looks like this. And what we did was we took the two sets of goals that currently exist, the board goals for the college and the board goals for the superintendent president. We aligned them up side by side so you could see how they work. And in the last column, I included how we are measuring those goals. Now, you're going to see that there are some blanks because they don't align completely. And so what I'm suggesting tonight is that we combine the current two sets that we have here, the board goals for the college and the board goals for the president, into one set, because they have different timeframes on them too. And they do have a lot of commonalities, and we just line them up into one, and we make them the board goals for the president, because he's the one who's going to make us do them anyway, so. Does that make sense?
Sure.
You see? They kind of look like this. We have the first column was the board goals for the college from 2014 to 17, and those were established in July of 2015. And then we got a new set, sort of, in May of 2016. And so you can see how we crosswalked them across there, and then in the last column, how we were measuring them. Now, in April, I did a report for you on where we were on the board goals for the president. And so the next report, what we would need to do is combine those and give you a full report on all the goals. I'm going to skip through here.
Was the hard copy package we received supposed to look like this? Because mine only has 2 columns.
Mine too.
I was going to ask the same question, because I didn't look at the hard copy, I only looked at the board docs. and
Oh,
there's 2
yeah, you
columns.
should have gotten a hard copy that looks like this. It wasn't in the board
We got
docs.
that in the packet tonight.
Yeah.
But the board doc one is only 2 columns,
Right, that's correct. We added the last column for you on the measurement.
May I ask a question?
You can.
So just for
It's in your
my,
folder. It's in the brown
Go ahead,
folder.
Trustee Brown.
I just wanted for my clarification, you have, starting at the top where it says board goals for college 214, 217, and on the right-hand side, you have 216 to 18. Are these goals the ones that are blank? Do that mean, I wasn't sure how that works.
Are you talking about where it's blank under the board goals for the
Yes,
president?
Correct, yes.
Correct. Because we didn't have, when I was given the board goals for the president, they didn't align with the board goals for the college. So what I did was I took the ones that I had for the board goals for the president, and I said, okay, so these are identical basically to the ones of the board goals for the college. But there were some that didn't line up.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I think what happened is we stopped working on the ones on the board goals for the college, and I want to bring those back in and move them over into one column so that we're working on all of them.
Thank you.
And here I didn't think I had a lot to say.
So your recommendation is that the board set the board goals for the president and then let him work with the executive cabinet to set the board goals for the college?
Exactly.
Okay. I don't think we need a vote on it. Do we want any discussion on it? Does anyone object to doing that?
Is that how other colleges do it?
Yes. Because it is, the superintendent president is your employee, so setting the goals for him is a far better way to manage the college. Because he's going to tell us what to do anyway. He's really good at it.
I always thought that made sense, but I don't know, Trustee Martin, since you have a little historical experience here, do you
don't,
do you have any
I
memory
don't have
of
anything to
this?
say on that. I have a comment on the goals specifically.
okay. Go ahead, Trustee
But you're on
Martin.
I think you ought to finish the topic, and then we can comment on the
Okay.
goals specifically.
So if no one has any objections, I do agree with Ms. Colores. I always thought it was a little confusing that we had two separate goals that we're following, and it really should be, as she said, that the board gives sets the goals for the president, and then let the president work with the college on moving forward and setting the measurements. So if we all agree, we can go ahead and proceed on that, and we don't have to set two different sets of goals. Well, actually, we do have to set two different sets of goals, because one will be tonight we'll be doing the goals for the president, but we'll also be doing the goals for the board.
So are you saying that we will set goals for the president tonight, and then, what is that second step? I did not understand it.
And the second one is, we usually use the same session to set the board goals for ourselves, and that's what we evaluate ourselves on annually. Trustee Martin, you had something to say?
Well, I had a comment on the goals specifically when you want to
Okay.
get to that topic.
I think we're done with this discussion. I'm not hearing that there's any objection from any of the trustees, so why don't we go ahead to the,
Okay. So whichever column you're looking at, they fall into 5 basic categories. And I certainly agree that having too many goals means you really don't have any. So in some ways, I appreciated the way the president's goals were a bit fewer in number, at least in the subletters, than the board, because it actually gives you something to focus on. The 5 basic topics I have no problems with. Student success and the focus on pathways is wonderful. Institutional effectiveness, of course, community engagement, collegiality, which is very important to us, and even social justice. What I was concerned about were maybe 2 broader areas that I think we don't have any identification of goals on. The first one is that for decades and decades, Pasadena City College has been renowned not just for the quantity of education and the number of degrees, but for the quality of education. We all have numerous stories, but because I have the mic, I get to share one. And I was in a debate with the dean at UCLA trying to graduate, and they had a requirement at the school that community college courses, after a certain point once you attended UCLA, you couldn't take a community college course and count it, and I took one, and I was trying to get it accounted, and the dean's comment, I'll never forget, he said, even though you took it at Pasadena City College, we still can't count it. So I thought that was a strong testimony for Pasadena City College. It was like, well, you took it at PCC, we should be able to count it because it's PCC, but we don't accept community colleges, so we won't count it. So I won't tell you what happened on that story. You can ask me after the meeting. But I thought that was a strong testimony. I remember that our transfers to UCLA in their junior year, we kept getting reports from deans at UCLA had higher grade point averages than the returning students who had spent their first 2 years at UCLA. So we have had a reputation in our community for decades that this really is a universally equivalent high-quality academic education as good as any place else. And we have, and I appreciate this, spent an enormous amount of effort focusing on my district and some of the areas of this district that needed special attention. But we have half this district where the theme of the quality of education at PCC will be extremely important in reaching students and families in the community in that district. So I don't know how to package the goal. I don't know how to come up with a measurable outcome. And I don't know that our stellar reputation has been tarnished, but neither do I want to take it for granted. And I want to build on it. So I would like to see a goal that somehow we can work with the academic senate and everyone that somehow shows and embellishes, and we can somehow measure the quality of education here is second to none. The last area that I think we are kind of wanting here, and we've always for time immemorial had a board goal that said we will have a balanced budget. It's always questionable what we meant by a balanced budget. Do you include the beginning cash balance, or is it just the opera? You know, we never really got into that level of detail, and there was many a year we're glad we didn't because we needed the beginning cash balance or whatever. We realize, especially the Budget and Audit Committee, and I think we all realize that there is a tsunami of issues financially facing us in the future. And, you know, part of me says it's going to drown us all. We don't need to worry about it. The state's going to have to figure it out, or everybody's going to drown. On the other hand, if the state doesn't figure it out, I want to at least be on the highest ground we possibly can be on. And, you know, I think we should identify the fact that next to hiring the superintendent, probably the most identifiable, if not most important responsibility of this board is the financial well-being of the district. So, and we don't have one goal that kind of even articulates that. So I would think, I would appreciate some kind of goal, some area of goal that at least identifies the fact that we are making a concerted effort towards keeping the district financially viable in an impending time of great difficulty. So those two areas, I think we need a little more work on how to craft it and word it in the A, B's, and C's, but if maybe my colleagues would agree with me on the concepts, we could turn it back to Dr. Verdina and the staff to work through some of the detail. And the Academic Senate would be a big part, of course, on the quality of education.
So I do think that those are two very important points. So let me suggest this, if you agree. Why don't we go through the president's goals? So first we have student success, and I'm wondering whether or not quality of education comes somewhere under student success. But I'll leave it to the president's office to see how we might work that in. But I do think that's really important. In fact, I think it came up at the API President's Advisory, and we talked about PCC being the Harvard of community colleges, and we made that statement, and I've heard it now resonated a couple of times across the community, so I think we should keep that up. I do think that we should have this this budget item in there because the fiduciary responsibility of the trustees is one of our main responsibilities.
Could I add something, Trustee?
Sure.
Just to John's point, I've attended several meetings of the Pasadena City College Foundation, and they're beginning to ramp up for this capital campaign, and part of the message they're going to be getting out there to the thought leaders in the community and the rest of the community is the excellence of the education at PCC. So I would suggest that one of the ways to get this message out is through the marketing, which is going to be, there's going to be more active marketing from the PCC Foundation, and the college has got a great department here. So that's one, you know, I'm a story person, and I think that telling a great story and getting the message out to the right people is really important, but it does involve some strategy.
That is a good point, and I think that we did discuss this last year about the need for strategic communication. It ended up being in the board's goals, but I don't really see it here in the president's goals. So I think this speaks to the engagement of the community, keeping them informed, getting our message out, and this
Yeah,
strategic
it would be
communication.
under the community engagement, 3A, yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, well, let's go through, under student success and graduation completion initiatives, why don't we, are there, and we'll just go ahead and let the trustees, if there's something in particular that you would, does this seem like it still is a goal that we really, that we want to set for the president? And if so, do we want to fine tune it or make it more relevant for the issues that we're facing today?
Are we saying that we're essentially going to be ignoring the first column?
Well, basically, we set the board goal for the president, which is the student success. So everything else, how they're doing it, was set by the president.
But my question is, are we going to discuss things in this first column? The ones that say board goals for the college? Are we going to discuss any of that? Or do you just want to discuss the
Well, I'm just,
items that are under the middle column?
well, I'm discussing the heading, basically.
Okay?
So if you're saying, are we engaging, do we discuss whether or not we engage the faculty to develop opportunities for students? I think that the trustees are not tasked with the how. We're setting the goal, and then how they do this is actually developed by the president. So did I miss your point again?
I just want to know which, I'm trying to follow
Okay.
or track
I think
how we're,
column 1 and 2 are
Discussing.
basically the same. Is that correct?
Yes, except where you see blanks in column 2, we didn't have an alignment with the president's goals. And
Right.
what I was recommending is that we actually just basically move everything into column 2 from column 1.
Exactly.
oh, okay,
So that way, we're working on everything, and they're all under the superintendent president.
I understand that,
Is that
okay.
good?
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Colross.
She said,
So what Ms. Colross is saying is her recommendation is move everything from column 1 into column 2, so we're only working with one column. So the heading is the same. The how they're going to do it may be more detailed. Trustee Selvage.
Yes, okay. Now, we can get to something which was in column 1, which we've now moved over and merged with column 2.
There you
Right,
go.
down at the bottom, item 1E, develop methods for ensuring that all in-district students are able to enroll in full-time courses, et cetera. A thing that I know is extremely important to my constituents, and I had gotten mixed information since becoming a trustee a couple of years ago about how that could be done, or whether it was legal, or we could or could, anyway. If you move over here to this measurement column, it says priority enrollment status for in-district students. I mean, I would be fine with that. I've been told it's illegal. But that we could accomplish giving in-district students, let me put it this way, in-district students could end up getting priority enrollment effectively if we focus our marketing of the pathways to high schools in the district, which is, I believe, is what we do.
President Verdian.
In-district students can get priority registration if they go through an orientation program like Pathways.
Yeah.
So currently what we do is pursuant to Ed Code and Title V, in-district students who enroll in the Pathways program receive what is given to all the students who go through that process, priority 3. Is that correct, Dr. Olivo?
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
that's what they get.
Okay. We have non-district students who go through Pathways, is that correct?
Yes, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we make a point to market Pathways to non-district students?
We market, Dr. Olivo,
We market all of our educational opportunities to everyone because we accept everyone. But one thing we do, Trustee Selvage, is through Ed Code, we are able to prioritize within that group of Pathways students. In-district students can go one day before or hours before out-of-district Pathway students.
Okay, that's the first I've heard that. Okay, if you had told me that, well, what I had been told is sort of a blanket, you can't give in-district students priorities. That would sound to me like that wasn't consistent. So, but if you say it's okay, then I'll accept that it's okay.
So
It is
Trustee
because
Selvage,
it's a
just so I
success
understand
program.
your point here, you're asking, so you would like, and I think that the board has discussed this in the past, that we would like to increase the enrollment of in-district students, and that should be one of the goals. Is that correct? Is that what you're asking here?
No, a little finer point. For the in-district students, I would, if the education code didn't exist, if there weren't constraints there, I would prefer that they get priority registration, that they all get to register before out-of-district students. Now, that's not legal. Okay, so we've got other arrangements which result in in-district students getting some priority, I guess, which isn't illegal. And I'm all for having priorities that aren't illegal. So, okay, I'm happy with that.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is ask the trustees if we can keep the points to goal setting. So state the goal that we want to achieve, and then we will wait for the staff to come up with their recommendations on how it would be done. So I think it's fine to ask questions about whether or not we're actually achieving, but I think that should come later. So our I guess, area of responsibility is to set the target and then let them decide how they're going to reach that target. Trustee Brown?
Yeah, so going back to in-district. So I am not sure if last year we had a goal to increase in-district students by X amount. Is that something that we can be a goal that we achieve, that we say we would like to increase by 10% or 20% or what have you?
Well, I can tell you that if we look at the data, my understanding is that the numbers have gone up. Is that correct, Dr. Oliver? The numbers have gone up.
Absolutely, yes, especially because we have a first-year experience program. So we can continue to achieve higher and higher
So
goals.
can we have that as part of our goals?
I think that if we say that our goal is to increase in-district student enrollment, let the president and his staff come back and say, these are the targets, and this is the timeline by which we think that we can increase it. That information comes back to the trustees, and then we approve whether or not we agree that that is a goal that is acceptable to us. If they come back and they say, we'll improve by 10 students, then that's not probably an acceptable goal, and so we would kick it back and ask them to...
I didn't understand what you said.
Let this, all right, let's see.
Please.
Let me say it more simply. So basically, let us set the goal, let the president work with his staff to set then the targets and the measurements and the timelines, and then come back and bring those back to the trustees for approval.
Yes, ma'am.
Otherwise, I'm just trying to get us through the goals. So, okay, so we have continued to increase the in-district enrollment. Are there other areas under student success?
So I guess we'll say the same thing about graduation and transfer.
To increase graduation transfer of in-district students or all students?
All students,
All students.
especially underrepresented students.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Because we know that we have students that are achieving, period, but the underserved students, what are we doing to increase that number? So I think that should be one of our goals.
Other areas? So I have a few under this, under success. One is to increase to have a workforce development goals, a target, so that we increase either access or enrollment in the workforce, the course builders that are making a difference, and then to be able to track how that then goes back to our students getting jobs and whether or not they're jobs in the industries of our area and in the industries that we have been working with them on. The other, I think, is student access. So we know that tuition and registration are not the only costs to the students that may prevent them from getting access to higher education. So we have talked about the transit passes, ability to get to school. I think the workforce and the internships are things that we've talked about. We're also looking at things, and I believe the Board of Governors, Member Shaw is looking at how the community colleges, where our community college students, how they fare in terms of housing and food. So we know that we have a fair number of students who are either homeless or are food deprived, hungry. They're facing hunger challenges. So I think the Cal State numbers came out, and 1 in 5 is homeless. And then there's a higher number that's going without food. So I'm sure community colleges will be higher. So I would like, the board approves that. I would also like to include that as one of the targets for the
Trustee Wah, if we can add OER to that too.
OER, the textbooks, of course. I think that's extremely important. Are there any other items under this area for the other trustees? Okay, how about institutional effectiveness? So we have, does this still resonate with the trustees as being a priority for a board, for a goal for the president? And are there any particular areas in which you would like to see progress?
Can I ask Trustee Martin if this would be an appropriate area to include the fiscal issues that you talked about?
And leave that to Dr.
It would be an appropriate area to include that in.
Okay.
And then I think this is also, since we're talking about facilities, so we're also looking at the facilities and the technology master plan. So those have been the measurements for 2015-16. I don't know if that we really have a 5-year plan for technology or the facilities plan. I think we're still working at that. Okay. So just to reemphasize that we need a target for that.
And superintendent is going to get back to us with goals, and those would be time-oriented.
Right.
But organizing your ad hoc committee
And
and completing the.
don't want to
master
prolong it, but John, on your second point about about fiscal responsibility, and I know this is a long discussion which we shouldn't have tonight, but I just wanted to emphasize for the benefit of the president that as we proceed towards keeping our heads above water and fiscal health, that we not sacrifice the quality of education, because we can cut to the bone, but we can't cut into the bone. And I think that ultimately it is our responsibility to manage responsibly the money that we're getting from taxpayers and from the state, but ultimately it's their decision about the funding for us, and I wouldn't want to, by anticipating the worst, I wouldn't want to necessarily cut into the bone of our quality education. So that's a fine line, and I know we'll have a lot of chance to talk about that further, but I'm just kind of amplifying on your earlier comment.
Point well taken, Trustee Hilsman. So just for maybe a little clarity for me, President Frudian, what are some measurements that we might be looking at in terms of ensuring quality of education?
We could be looking at the courses that we have that articulate with the UC system, courses that articulate with private universities, the number of our students who transfer to elite schools, number of our students who transfer to the top research institutions in the nation. We could be looking at awards that the college win based on the quality of the education that we have, because based on the quality of the education, students move at a higher rate from pre-college level to college level. Students transfer at a higher rate. So those, I believe, are some of the areas that we could be looking at to determine the quality of our education. And we also, when we follow our students, especially now through the databases that exist, we can follow our students who transfer to the CSUs and UCs, and we can see how they perform when they get to the UCs and the CSUs. So that will tell us as to whether what we provided the students were of use to them when they got there, because if what we provided them was not good enough, they would have difficulty in the upper division courses they are taking at the UCs and CSUs.
So would we be able to track those students who are not doing well and then fall out of the four-year system once they transfer? Is that?
We should be able to do that because we know whether they graduate or not. So that would be one way of doing that, tracking the students on the available data that we currently have through the UCs and CSUs.
So trustees Martin and Hilsman, does that sort of fit with what you were hoping to look at in a scorecard if it
Well,
were
I'm
reported
impressed that he rattled that off so quickly after I just brought it up. Man, if he can do that in 5 minutes, imagine we can give him a week, see what he comes up with. That'll be impressive. I think when we can place a lot of students that transfer from PCC, as he mentioned, to, if we can get, the alignment that we've had with UCLA and SC, and obviously other, top universities, so that students realize that this is an avenue to those institutions, and in many cases, it's a more cost-effective avenue, and it comes out with the same degree at the end. I think that makes a strong sell to quality students that this is where they want to be.
Trustee Hilsman, is there anything else? No. So trustees, with your permission, I'd like to also put forward the possibility of tracking an increase to our dual enrollment and concurrent enrolled students, which speaks to early access for higher education. So since our Assembly member in Pasadena, Assemblymember Holden, sponsored that bill, it seems to me that would be a good way for us to track whether or not we're getting early access for students.
So trustee Waugh, are you on page 1 in section 1, student success, or are you putting these under institutional effectiveness?
So I wanted to go back under student success,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So if you agree, we'll add that. Other areas of institutional effectiveness which speak to the trustees? Okay, well, moving on here. Maybe we'll get out on time. Community engagement. So that was not, I thought it was under we did have something for the president, but it doesn't look like we did originally, huh? Okay. Are there any areas that do we want to still retain this as one of the goals for the president? And do we want to fine-tune things to track for the president?
I believe we want to keep this category of community engagement, and it's mentioned peripherally in item 3B, talking about outreach to the community, philanthropic, international, educational, and businesses. But I think that topic of outreach to the business community is worthy of a category of its own and measurements, with the goal of trying to identify what their requirements are for workforce and how we can help meet them, how we can tailor our course offerings to meet them. So I'd like to see that broken out as a separate goal.
Okay.
I'd second that one.
Okay. Workforce for our business partners. Okay. I like that too. Are there other trustees? Any other issues? Of course, Dr. Verdi.
I think this is a goal that is very important to the college, and because without this goal, our image in the public is not going to be as it is right now. Without this goal, we will not be known as the Harvard of community colleges, because it's the work that we do in this area that makes us so appealing to students that come from all over the Southern California zone.
Yes, I agree. I think this is extremely important. It also speaks to probably even one of the board's own goals on community engagement. Okay, so we're done with that and we're good? Okay, so we have a goal on collegiality. Oh, gosh, I think President Verdine probably should get a medal for collegiality, but shall we keep this and/or fine-tune it?
I've got a question on 3C. It said re-engage the community college community in the central focus. Should that be re-engaging the community college is the central focus, or that first line there reads a little bit
Confusing.
strange to me.
You might need the word as.
Let's focus on. So are you,
No, I
is
I
it
don't
not
quite
clear
under-
what the intention of that
Yes,
is?
that's
Okay.
not clear. I'm a little confused by that, particularly the first line there,
Okay.
of that 2.5-line statement.
This probably is from the previous page, right?
Actually, I found that one confusing too. I
think
didn't
this was the
understand
previous
it.
page.
Yeah,
Well,
I didn't understand it at all, sorry.
Okay, we've got a little rework on that one.
I'll go back and maybe I can figure out what the intent was, but.
I think that's a worthwhile goal, but I'm not certain that it belongs under category number 4 of collegiality.
If you look at that, this should have been in the previous page.
Yeah,
Previous
sorry.
Should have been in the
Okay.
previous page under 3C. Work collaboratively with local public and private high schools to build a college-going culture and all that. So this is
Oh,
one
all
of the-
those number 3s
Yes,
means
this is the
3,
collegiality.
the third page,
But at the
understood.
top, what you see at the top,
Yeah,
that is
Yes.
not collegiality. That's on the previous page.
yes,
Understood.
okay.
It's just, probably it's a mistake in printing.
so then we're only left with one item for number 4 at that point.
Right, increase the number and proportion of in-district students, which doesn't even fall, oh, no, that's not even that.
And
Promote
before we have
trust.
A, A, and B, right? Promote trust and
Trust,
enhance
yeah,
the
shared
system of
vision.
participatory governance.
Right.
Those are the two.
Where's 4B? I see
Yeah.
4A.
I see,
It's
I have
actually-
4A.
It's labeled 3B. It's right underneath
3B
4A.
is 4B.
Yeah.
Got it, okay. And then the 3D and the 3C belong to the prior page.
Right.
Got it,
But the wording is a little odd.
yeah.
It is, so they'll wordsmith that, so point well taken, trustee Selvage. Okay,
And I was getting mixed up, I was looking at the screen again, trying to be high-tech here. So we're just working off the paper.
It's easier.
Yeah, we're just working off the paper, okay.
yeah, well,
Close this a little.
that's why this is a parallel test. Okay, let's see, host monthly forums. Anything else that we do still want to leave collegiality in there as a president's goal, or do we feel that's been reached and is now a part of our culture, or do we
Oh, I think,
keep
Keep it
it?
in there.
Keep it
I
in there,
suggest
okay.
I suggest we keep it. I suggest we keep it for
Okay.
some time.
Otherwise, he'll just change totally, and then, it'll be,
You're right, you're right.
we can't let him get away with that.
Right, we can't let him off the hook, all right, all right. And we don't need to add anything else, or, okay. All right, we are now on goal 5, social justice. This looks like it wasn't actually one of the president's goals, it was a college goal. So this is looking at the underrepresented, making sure that we work with,
I suggest we keep it, even though we've made a lot of progress in that area. The recommendation from the college to the board is to keep this because we still have a lot of work to do in that area.
so my question is, why would this not be under the student success? So isn't this part of the student success and the outreach and closing the gap?
Exactly.
Why is it, but why would we have a social
Separate
justice?
category.
I do believe that sometimes you may have to to show that there are two areas here, even though one can be subsumed under the other. It is also important to isolate it and present it by itself because
emphasize its priority.
it is a priority. Yeah.
Okay, well, I certainly see how 5B, okay, so 5A, if everybody agrees, we'll leave that in. Does this also speak to the EEO plans of the college? So do we want to add anything in that verbiage for the president to strive towards the EEO? Are there other things that we want to change on this goal? We like it? Okay. Well, heck, we're done. And now we have the board goals.
President Waugh, I wanted to go back to, before we move on to Trustee Martin's comment about financial goals. And I would advocate we have a separate section, but whether we do a separate section or include it in Section 2, institutional effectiveness, either way, I think we should just spend a few minutes giving Superintendent Verdian some parameters. Like John said, well, we should have a balanced budget. We're going to need some more nuanced goals than that because we're not going to achieve that goal this year. So I guess I would ask Superintendent Verdian to come back with some financial goals for this fiscal year, more detailed than a balanced budget.
Good point, Trustee Osterling. I believe Trustee Martin's recommendation was that we have a separate budget goal. Was that correct?
Which I would agree with.
Which I also
Yeah.
agree with.
Let's call that Section 6 for the moment.
Okay. So the point is well taken. I'm going to work with staff and add that section 6 on budget goals. And we will bring to you for the next board meeting because we have to revise all that and clean it and include everything that has been mentioned today. And under budget goals, we are going to come up with a plan of action. We'll bring it to you, right? So that at that point, you can give us additional feedback to.
And we should include in those goals one of Trustee Martin's pet projects, which is the separate investment account, John, for,
That'd be fine.
yeah.
Trustee Martin.
Also, two things I know that we're doing, so, sometimes it's okay to have a goal that you know you can make because it's important. One is working collaboratively with our unions on finding, mutual ways of saving on costs. And I know we're doing that, but that would be a wonderful goal for us to have as an institution because it's really important that we're all in this together. Kind of paralleling that, I know you and the administration are making a concerted effort to get good financial information and transparent financial information out, both on campus and off campus, to the institution constituencies, so that everyone understands that it's a very fair and transparent process. We're not trying to hide anything here. And so to me, that would be kind of another goal that would fit in that budgetary financial section that I know we're doing already, but it points out that it's important for us.
We will definitely include all that, Trustee Martin.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
have one thing, though, that I would like to say on that. So if we have a goal that said we would work just based on what you said, Mr. Martin, so since these goals are things that how we're going to eventually evaluate the president, what happens, and when his term comes, I'm just being the devil's advocate, when the end of the year comes up, and let's say we had a bad negotiation where things did not go out as we anticipated, so is he going to be penalized for that? Is he going to get a negative because he didn't reach his goal? I think that's a little questionable, in my opinion. So I think we need to be a little more, I think it's just me. I work with unions, so I know. It's a little tricky.
President Verdian.
Let the administration work on this and bring it to you so that at that point you can take a look at it, because we will include everything that you've said, but we're going to include it in such a manner that it is going to be possible for us to accomplish it. And at the same time, you will provide us feedback and we'll take it from there.
All right, and I Trustee Selvage.
Yeah, the Chancellor's Office, CCLC, even the Accreditation Commission has reference materials on budgeting for community colleges, and going through those probably help identify a couple ways in which we could specify the goals, like balanced budget or whatever we want to call it, long-range planning, that sort of thing.
This is exactly what we intend to do. We're going to be looking at the regulatory agencies' criteria that colleges and universities have to follow, and we're going to use all of them and create the, if you want, the subset of the goal that will deal with budget and financing.
Yes, I just wanted to add, I think I heard Trustee Martin's request a little bit differently in that I think what I heard was you were asking that, that we strive to identify where there are common or mutual, there are areas for mutual consent and opportunities to create mutual consent and work on those. So I don't know if I heard that correctly.
I think we all understand, the two old adages, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink, and no reasonable person died of starvation staring at vegetables on their plate. So,
Hadn't heard that one.
you haven't heard that one?
I
Okay.
haven't heard that.
Well, maybe I just made it up, but it sounds like an old adage
I'm
to
going
me.
to use it on my kid.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we understand how those two come together. I don't, as Jim said, he's not going to come up with a goal to have a balanced budget this year when we know the difficulty. So we'll have to kind of craft that a little bit different. But obviously, we want to show we want to and have successfully so far been able to work with all our unions to benefit us all in the circumstances that we're in. So we want to continue to do that.
And on the same subject of financial, I'd like some goals about internal and external communication of our financial status. I think if we increase the financial literacy of everybody involved in our college community, internally here and externally, it will help to facilitate what John is saying, to collaborate with our unions.
Okay, so we will look to President Verdian bringing back then a more tuned. Okay. Anything else on the president's goals? All right, so we now have 6 goals for the president for him to work on with his cabinet. On to the board goals. For some reason, I thought we had more than 4 board goals.
We looked at them, there were only 4 goals that came to the board last year.
Well, I think one of them is that page where we have meeting, and it meets the accreditation standards, so it probably wasn't really called out specifically. But certainly, I do think that,
But that's, okay, I see what you mean. Okay, because there are 2 ways of looking at it. One is when the board is really not responsible for the college work on us addressing the standards of accreditation. But at the same time, I see what you're coming from is that, what you're saying is that the board also needs to be able to function and have a goal that calls for the board to follow what is in standard 4 governance. I believe that's what you are referring to, and we can add that.
right.
We can draft that for you. We'll draft it and bring it to you.
Yes, I do think that there needs to be a recognition that the board has a responsibility under Standard
Right.
4, and I think that with the changes that are happening at ACCJC, I think the boards will be more involved in these issues.
Trustee Watt, just a point of information. Now, this is different from the board goals that we discussed in our retreat. This is different from the board goals for ourselves that we had talked about and
Well, it should
you
have
and I
been the
worked on.
same. No, it should have been the same. That's why they look a little odd to me, I have to say.
Is this in the board docs someplace?
Yeah, and I'm trying to
I-
match up
I-
what we're seeing on the screen
can't
with,
find
This is
this
in your packet,
Yeah, it's
and
in
these
here,
are
but-
the
but it-
15, 16 board
Right,
goals.
they didn't put it in the board docs.
Wasn't
It's
in
only
board
in the
docs.
paper
Okay.
copy.
See, I'm trying so hard to be just Mr. All Electronic
is
here
it in the
tonight,
small
so-
folder?
Yeah,
But I'm going to have to go back
Okay,
to the
so I'm
old.
not-
sorry.
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
Back
I'm
to
not
old
finding it.
habits.
We went to paper.
It's at the last 2 pages, yeah.
Okay,
Page 9 and 10.
Last 2 pages.
got it.
So to my question, Trustee Watt, what are we looking at here?
Well, they do look a little different to me than what I thought that we had
I thought ours were a
evaluated
little
ourselves.
more extensive.
Are you talking about 16, 17 goals?
Yes.
I haven't seen those.
Ah,
These are 15, 16.
No. So we had the goals that we evaluated ourselves on. So if you go through the
These are-
evaluation
these are
package,
the
this
ones.
came directly out of that?
Yes, these are, according to in your self-assessment, these were the goals you evaluated yourself on in August.
Wow, they look so different.
they do.
I took them right out of that instrument.
Oh, well, see,
Would
we-
it be possible, Ms. Colrose, during the week for us to resend to
I can resend
the
the summary
board,
report
right?
we sent,
We
yes,
can
of
resend
course.
the whole document with the goals as they are stated in the assessment document?
Yes,
then we
I can send everything. You
And then we can review, then the board can review those goals and not rewrite, but then plan for the 16, 17 goals that will be evaluated next year in April or May?
Actually, we usually evaluate the board goals in August.
Okay, so we'll do that in August of next year?
Well, I can pull up out of my emails the revised version of this that we had and forward it on to you just for your information. It does look a little different to me, so I'll check it out.
yeah, maybe it's the condensed version that makes it look strange.
What you saw probably included a lot of subsections.
Yes.
That's why it would look a bit different, but the goals themselves,
I see.
the goals themselves were those 4 goals, but then in your assessment document, there were subparts there. I mean, you take the first one, I mean, there were some examples, and then I believe is that what it is?
Yeah, there were
Right.
under each, I can send you the whole report.
Oh, no,
again.
that was the confusion.
yeah.
You know,
But this was
we weren't very
the high
ambitious, it
level.
looks like here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think, let me suggest this, trustees. I mean, I don't think that these goals, if we just take them generally, are not out of alignment with what we would have put on our evaluation, what we would have evaluated ourselves by. So why don't we go ahead and discuss them, and then with the proviso that we take a look at our past evaluation form and see if there were subsets that we want to fine tune, and then we might have to come back to this issue and have a further discussion on it. So, welcome, Trustee Groupian. Okay, so on strategic communication, I don't know that we specifically said that we would do a conversation committee, but I do think that we did agree that we would increase our outreach and communication to the campuses. So if we just look at strategic communication and what we want to accomplish, how does the board feel about this as a goal, to continue it for the next year, or to fine-tune it, or to change it? Recommendations? Okay, well, looks like that's a go for next year. Yes, I think we'll keep that one. Professional development, I think we all agree that professional development has been really important. I think that right now we hold ourselves to try to accomplish an effectiveness trustee or certificate, or to engage us in I guess there were 6 areas that the league pointed out for trustee effectiveness. So we can hold with that. I don't know how the board will work with the college to enhance professional learning. How is that a board? I'm not sure how that would be a board goal. So I think that we just keep that to professional development of the board.
These goals pertain only to the board members, right? That's what the board members want to do for themselves. Those are the
Correct.
goals that you're setting for the board to do.
Right, right. That's why it looks a little odd to me that we say the board and the college will work together. So I think the board is...
That's how it was written last year, but we will change it this year and make it.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
right.
fine tune that.
The
So,
bo- the board will work together with the college.
Yes.
Flip a couple words there.
but we don't really even have to work with the college because it's a board goal. It's our own professional
The
development.
goal is to work,
Okay, okay. The goal is to work with the college.
yes.
Okay. All right, we'll fine tune that one a little bit. So professional development, I think we should keep in. Does anybody object to doing that?
No.
I'm not sure how board policies and procedures, I mean, the policies and procedures are our job. So I'm not sure, we already have a board subcommittee that reviews it.
If I remember well, I think last year something came up to that effect, and the board said that we should create a subcommittee to review that, and the board agreed to make that a goal. But doesn't mean that goal needs to continue. You could change it, maybe just refer to it as something completely different. I mean, it could be dealing with policies and procedures, but it doesn't have to
It's
be
not.
referred to that.
Okay, I don't remember that as being one of our goals. I know we had specific policies, but any luck on pulling up that last evaluation?
I'm
trustee
looking for
Hilson?
it. I think we really do have a
Oh,
confusion here,
It's
so.
the last two pages, right here. Yeah. Is that right? Do you have it?
Okay.
So trustee Brown, number 3, the board policies and procedures, is that the page you're on?
I'm on, yeah, 2, 3. Okay.
I actually have this.
Okay, I think we'll have to look at that. And campus climate, so I'm not sure how the board makes that, it's our goal for the president, so I guess we just have to make sure we don't piss off anybody or. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Anger anyone. Sorry about that. Reverting back to my hood days. Okay, well, these do seem a little
I
nebulous.
would suggest that we update this. I'll research it and find what I sent to you or what you have and compare it to what we had done in our retreat. I think it's probably better to table this one until a later date so we can have an accurate read.
Do all trustees agree with that?
confused.
Yeah, this
Well,
does seem to be
were
very
those
nebulous.
emails that you and me and trustee Water
Right.
were exchanging in late June,
That's right.
self-evaluation.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find them on my
Okay.
mail account, but
I may have them here.
And I trust Director Colress did an excellent job, and this is probably what we said, but, we're all old and we all forget this stuff. Sure.
Well, I was going to suggest that since we have trustee Brown, trustee Hilsman, and trustee Wah are members of the subcommittee of the board on policies and procedures, I suggest that the three of you get together and make some recommendations on broad areas, and Ms. Colross and the college staff can work on that and draft them for you, and then you can review and bring it back.
would it be appropriate for us to email these to the other board members, or is that a Brown Act?
Then it would be, then that would be a problem. But if the three of you as members of the subcommittee could get together and identify what you would like to see and give that to us, and we'll work on it and give that to you, and you can fine tune it, and then we'll bring it back as an agenda item for all the board members to review, and we can approve it at that point.
So maybe a variation of that. I do agree that maybe the board subcommittee just needs to get together and we'll go over the evaluation. We'll bring over what we thought the board goals were for last year. But I do think, it's better that we set the goals together as a group rather than a subcommittee recommending, and because I think that every board member may have different things that they would like to see accomplished. So if the board agrees, we will table this. The subcommittee will meet, and we'll try to cast a little more light on this and see where we were on it, what we intended, and then we'll bring it back for further discussion and goal setting by the board. Is that okay?
Sounds good to me.
All right, and I don't think I need a motion on that, right? That's not for approval? All right. Okay, so we are, ooh, darned. Yeah, because I just lost the agenda, so, I know. Matthew has his foolproof way. All right, so if the trustees agree, we are now finished with 3.0. We now have the president's goals, and we will come back to the board goals. We'll go on to item 4.0. Oh, no, to the, Dr. Verdian will give the president's report.
Well, I don't want to remind everybody again about the big news. We are one of the top 10 schools in the nation, a national finalist now for the prestigious Aspen Prize. But today, my staff doesn't know that yet because I got that email around 5:30. We received an email from the Gates Foundation. And the Gates Foundation want us to apply for the Frontier Set Network and Grant for $630,000 over 3 years. And the reason why we were selected, that grant is only by invitation. We were selected because based on the data that they have received from the Aspen Foundation, we qualify as one of the community colleges that could apply for that grant. And if we win it, $630,000 over the course of 3 years. So things are looking good for the college, and I want to thank faculty, staff, and students for everything that we are doing that are getting our name out there, because we're doing something well. And Trustee Martin, this is also a testament to the quality of the instruction that we provide at the college and the quality of the courses that we offer. On Thursday, October 6th, we will host our campus-wide Professional Development Day, also known as Flex Day. And this year, the focus is going to be on student equity and diversity. There will be 6 separate equity-themed tracks through which faculty and staff will be able to build their skills in the year ahead on topics of hiring, infrastructure, student/customer service, and other areas pertaining to equity on campus. Our Veterans Center staff had an excellent trip to Sacramento to visit with the Chancellor's Office and Board of Governors. And Patty, our very own counselor, Patty Dorange Martin, and other Veteran Services regional representatives spoke before the Board of Governors of the California Community College system, along with student veterans. They sparked a lot of positive discussion, and at one point, they asked for $25 million, was up to $75 million, and finally the unanimous agreement was for $30 million, which will be requested of the governor in this coming year's budget. And I want all of you to know that the college did send a letter of support for this motion to Sacramento. Also, as you know about the strong workforce programs in California, there are $200 million available. And for this first year, $26 million available for the Los Angeles Orange County region. And when it comes to money of that magnitude, all the community college districts of the southern region are very involved. At last week's CEO meeting, 18 community college presidents and chancellors were present to approve the structure system that will be used to govern the distribution of that money. As you know, there will be one plan for this whole region, and this plan will be coming to this board after it goes through the regional approval process, will be coming to this board for approval before the end of January. And as of now, we have our very own district is represented by Dean Salomon Davila, and I know Salomon was in the audience, represents our district and takes forward everything that has to do with the programs that we have on campus. For this year, our share of that amount, I believe, is $2.4 million, Dr. Storti, right? But what I want all of us to keep in mind that effective next year, we know that money is divided right now 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That is 1/3 FTES, 1/3 placement and career technical programs and so on. And then there is the other third. But the third next year will be based on outcomes also. Half of that 1/3 will be based on the outcomes that we are producing. And if we don't produce the outcomes that we say we will produce based on that plan, we will not get that full amount, that 1/6 of the total amount. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Rudy. I know this is not on the agenda, but we normally have reports from our shared governance. So, Ms. Mitchell.
Nothing to report this evening.
Okay, President Russo.
Good evening. Associate Students has been looking forward to our Aspen interviews. We've been preparing in anticipation for them. So we have that coming up next week. In addition, today we had a briefing on OER, the Open Educational Resource Tool for Textbooks. So that's something that, as president of Associate Students, I'd really like to champion. And I'm going to be working with Kelly Bond, our new Academic Affairs Vice President, to speak with deans on campus and to further promote the program. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you warmed the cockles of Trustee Hilsman's heart on this. Yes, Mr. Putner.
Yeah, I was pleased on the behalf of the Management Association to sign the accreditation follow-up report. And the membership acknowledges the hard work done by all those who participated on the team, not the least of which were the writers Dr. Kathy Scott and Ms. Lenora Rojax. And we look positively forward to the October visit. Thank you.
Trustee Osterling.
I'm going to be a broken record. The most important items on the ballot are not Trump versus Clinton in the upcoming November election. It's Proposition 51 to repair and upgrade our schools. And as I've mentioned previously, the red-tagged U building is one of the top priorities for the Prop 51 funding. The second proposition is Prop 55. I keep reminding everybody about this because our ballots are going to be extensively long, and you're going to have to wade your way through all the national, et cetera, issues to get to all these propositions, but they're important. The second one is Prop 55, which essentially is an extension of the Prop 30 income tax, which is earmarked for education, so that those funds will not disappear and sunset. And then lastly, on Monday, I was at the Castaway Restaurant in Burbank, where our very own President Linda Waugh was honored by the Business Life magazine's 27th Annual Women Achievers Luncheon. And I mention this because she's too shy to do that herself. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Trustee Osterling. Yeah, and before we move on, I just wanted to say that I did, Propositions 55 and 51 were extensively discussed at the state meeting, and so they have put forth some materials, so I've asked Dr. Verdian to call the subcommittee of our legislative group together so we can take a look at that.
Well, actually, I do need to add to my report, and I was joined by an extensive contingent of PCC superintendents and administration and other trustees, including Superintendent Verdian and Trustee Hilsman and Dr. Storty and and some student trustees. So PCC was well represented, and I think they sponsored a table too.
We did.
Yeah.
Let me just add on Proposition 51. Last week, myself, Dr. Storty, and Mr. Reuben Smith went to El Segundo for the kickoff of the campaign for Measure 51. And I have offered that that Pasadena City College will host an event in the
We're going to host it in the U building?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Martin.
No report.
Trustee Selvage.
I'm going to be spending the next 2 weeks in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado, and while I'm there, the aspen are going to be turning from green to mainly gold, some red, and I'm going to take that as a omen that our colors being cardinal and gold, that it's propitious, that we're going to be very well evaluated by the Aspen team when they come here to see us.
Thank you. Trustee Hilsman.
Just quickly, congratulations again to Trustee Waugh on the honor. I've had a number of meetings with the PCC Foundation, and there's a lot of excitement building about the capital campaign, and I'm looking forward to that. And I should also say that any of us who are politically active, I've personally been pushing 51 and 55 with various constituencies that I know, and I think it's just an information and education effort and whatever we can do on campus to inform the faculty and students about the importance of this would be great too, without violating our essentially nonpartisan life.
Trustee Brown.
No report?
Trustee Groupian.
So to kind of echo with what Julia Russo said, so the Associated Students had a presentation by Walter Butler from the Stratford Library today about OERs, and just a statistic to kind of get everyone thinking. So according to him, 40% of the overall cost to attend community college goes to textbooks. So it's obvious that this is a big issue. As associated students, we are hoping to launch a campaign to kind of bring awareness to this issue and realize that education shouldn't lie in the cost of a textbook. There's much more to it. Another report, so the UPass, associated students and the student services, we've been working extremely hard to get it passed, and it did pass. And the last day to purchase the UPass is actually this Friday. So we're also trying to advertise that and get more students aware that they can buy the pass. So far, as of September 18th, it was reported that 1,800 passes were sold. I was also at Trustee Wells' luncheon. It was great seeing her up there alongside many influential women. I thank you for the invitation. I know we really enjoyed it. We loved seeing you out there cheering for you. It was really great. And last thing, so we had the LA County Supervisor Forum last Thursday. Huge turnout. We saw a lot of students and staff. I want to say the whole Crevling Lounge was almost full. So it was great seeing everyone there. We had the LA County Supervisor candidates here, and then October 11th is when we're having the State Senate candidates here. We're going to advertise that as well. Hopefully, maybe some of you can also attend. I think we're expecting more people to show up to that one. In addition, working with the League of Women Voters, we've been offered to host a forum regarding all of the props. So to kind of get the community aware of all the props. Yeah. It is nonpartisan, and it'll just be informational, obviously, but we're looking forward to doing that as associate students as well, and getting the community more involved in the props. As Trustee Ostering said, there's far more to the elections than the presidential campaign, the presidential candidates. So yeah, that's basically it, and thank you.
And you have a second candidate forum coming up, right?
Yeah, so that was the State Senate Candidate Forum, October 11th,
Okay.
7
great.
p.m. here.
Thank you. So I want to thank everyone who did come to the Burbank event for the Women Business Life. The first time I attended that event was when Trustee Brown received that award, and I was very proud to be at her table and to be able to cheer her on. And so I'm very honored that our students and our student government and our administration was able to come and celebrate that with me. So it meant a lot to me and our trustees who were able to come. So thank you very much. So we also had our league meeting this last weekend, and there were several things that came up. So the propositions 55 and 51 were talked about quite a bit, and there's a lot of information and guidance from the league on how we might better inform our communities about the issues. And so I hope that we're able to get our legislative subcommittee together. I think it's Trustees Hilsman and Osterling. Also, the impact of Senate Bill 415, I believe, which is the Wesso-Allen bill, and that is on the change of the election cycle. So I've asked Dr. Verdian to put that all on the agenda. I think that is something that we as trustees should vote on, because some of us will be more affected than others, so it should be something that comes before the entire board. And there was a lot of discussion, of course, about the workforce, which continues to be one of the main issues, as it was the largest budget item in the governor's education budget. So some of you may have seen that there is a new workforce coordinator at the K-12 level who will be working with counselors with the K-12s and then articulating the work that they're doing with what we're doing in higher education. So we're expecting to see a lot of movement in that area, especially towards internships and better guidance from the student services on careers and opportunities. And then we will be instituting a number of training sessions directed for the trustees to get them now more familiar with what their role can be in workforce. So we're just developing that now with the Chancellor's Office and with the League. And last, there's a lot of still discussion about the ACCJC and how the organization will change. And we just recently received notice that Dr. Bino has submitted her resignation for June of next year. So a lot of things in question then about how the ACCJC will will promote, and a lot of discussion on how it better articulates to senior WASC, or the four-year colleges, so that community colleges are better aligned and articulate to the 4 years for the success of our students. So with that, it's the end of the report, and we will adjourn the meeting.